Hip Hop World Cup. Come on, y'all. Survival of the fit, only the strong survive. Hip Hop World Cup. Come on, y'all. I know big jazz, kid, you know I bring it to your life. Hip Hop World Cup. Come on, y'all. Bringing the ruckus, no doubt. Hip Hop World Cup. Record shot. To the head, the hop, you don't stop.
Hello and welcome to Hip Hop World Cup Shootout, the podcast that pits golden age rappers and producers against each other to find the ultimate champions. I'm your host, Danny Phillips, and as ever I'm joined by Steve Hitchcock and James Luscombe. How are you boys?
Hello, all right.
Hello. Good stuff. We're coming to you live from Wrigley Field Stadium in Chicago, the city that today's rapper calls home. Before we get to that, I'll quickly explain that this is our shootout series, and there are two types of episode. One is versus, where we put two different producers or rappers against each other to see who wins. The other type is a solo, where we focus on a single artist or producer to find our favourite track of theirs. So this episode is a solo shootout, focusing on a rapper who burst onto the scene in 1992 with his debut album Can I Borrow a Dollar? Before blessing the world with his seminal second record, Resurrection, in 1994. He's since gone on to release a further 12 studio albums.
12, that's impressive, isn't it?
As well as embarking on an impressive Hollywood acting career, most notably providing the voice for Seymour the Penguin in 2011's Happy Feet 2. Yeah, that's right. Today we're looking at Common. Larry, this was your idea to do a shootout on Common. So talk me through your journey as a fan of Common. When did you first hear about him and all that sort of stuff?
It would have been through you and Matt, basically. Resurrection, the album. I don't think I'd heard of him before then. I know sort of he had an album, Can I Borrow a Dollar, before, which I don't think is very acclaimed, is it? Particularly.
People have a kind of a strange relationship with that record because it's so drastically different from his later ones. He's very manic on it and he's very kind of hyper, and his rapping style hadn't really matured, let's say. Yeah. So people don't really gravitate towards that one. Yeah.
So just to continue with my kind of affair with Common, I suppose. Yeah, Resurrection is one of my top two albums of all, or top two or three albums of all time. Exactly the same as you.
Yeah.
But I also really like some of his later stuff, like in particular, like Water for Chocolate was one of the albums that kind of drew me back into hip hop during that sort of late 90s, early 2000 era. I think, I was just looking for something to listen to, and because I was such a big fan of Common back in the day, I got that, and that really sort of pulled me back into hip hop, and then sort of getting into all the raucous and sort of OK player kind of scene.
Yeah.
And he's had some. He sort of remains doing quite good work, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he's remained relevant in his various guises, various albums. So
yeah. New album with Pete Rock this year or last year.
Yeah. So he's still knocking out the bangers. And Steve, I know you're a massive fan of Common and have been sort of, as we've heard in our previous episodes. So when did the love affair begin for you with Common?
I don't dislike him. I it's just that I just can't get into him as much as you two. That's the trouble.
I don't think I would revere him as much were it not for Resurrection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what is it about him that kind of stops you kind of falling in love with him as much as us?
Because I think he's clever but not credible. That's the thing that I've kind of been like chewing over in my mind. I just don't buy into the stuff that he raps about, because I think he raps about a lot of different things, and he is clever. His wordplay and his lyricism is really impressive, but I just don't buy into what he's saying, and I don't like the way he sounds and the way he flows. But having said that, sometimes he really does resonate with me. And I think because he's produced so much, it's like a broken clock. Even a broken clock's right twice a day. There's just some really good quality stuff that I still like. And probably similar to you, I got into him probably like through like Water for Chocolate, and I do like appreciate those albums. He's just not an artist I just keep going back to like you two do.
I think he can be a little bit earnest.
Yeah, certainly his later stuff.
Yeah. And I'll
tell you when all that began. Sorry, it was One Day It Will All Make Sense, was the album where he started to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And also his voice is kind of can be an acquired taste. He's quite nasal.
Very nasally, yeah.
Some of his delivery is a bit kind of
It's a bit too dense sometimes. That's what I don't like. But I think we'll unpick that in some of the tracks in a moment. But sometimes for me it works and he flows. Sometimes it just doesn't.
I think he's actually got a really musical voice. Like, he's one of these people. Like, there are so many rappers like it, where to just hear them talk is kind of, sounds good. But I think he can sometimes lean into that a little bit too much. I can't quite explain what I mean by that, but sometimes just sounds a little. It's just he's a bit much sometimes.
Yeah, he can be, and you can hear him kind of trying too hard. But then when he hits, he really hits. You know, in tracks like Communism, where the wordplay just a watermelon. Just when the wordplay becomes so clever, so complex, so technical, and you're kind of like, it really wows you.
Yeah.
And that's when he really shines.
I think when he's got a bit of tempo,
yeah,
like when the tracks have got a bit of tempo and he's kind of having to do that complex stuff that he is so good at, that's when he really shines. And he is good at the kind of slower tempo stuff as well, but that just doesn't showcase that doesn't flatter him, that kind of stuff. I think he's such a capable rapper that I love
clearly
that
his output is incredible. There aren't many rappers that have spanned that many years and had, success in all of those decades.
Yeah. I mean, 14 albums deep. There must be something about him that's really.
Why do you like him so much?
Like Larry, it was Resurrection was just a really, really special album to me. And when it came out, I just everything about it I loved. It was not only musically was it so up my street. This sort of hip hop I love. It was soulful, kind of very. Yeah, just soulful and jazzy, and I love the production, but also it was his wordplay. I was so impressed by it. I'd never heard anything like it. Just the way he would marry words, parts of words. He'd sort of shoot over the end of a sentence, and just the rhyme schemes. I hadn't up to that point really heard anybody else like it, and I hadn't heard Can I Borrow a Dollar at that point either. So this was all new to me when I heard Resurrection. Yeah, and it blew me away because the complexity of his rhymes just wowed me. Similarly, when I first heard AZ, very much similar thing with the wordplay.
I was going to say this when we're talking about Resurrection, but I think up until that point, that was like his delivery on Resurrection. The track is maybe the best piece of MCing that ever, that up until that point in time.
I'm going to disagree with that.
Well,
I mean, because you had some
just
really
so different.
What about Rakim? He was like this. Not like
this though.
Not like this. Rakim was still very line, rhyming the end of the word. Yes, he played with that. Every now and again.
He changed the rhyme schemes. He was his wordplay was really clever.
I don't doubt that at all. I agree with that, but I think Common was someone else who came along and changed the game. Basically, he was absolutely.
He showed that you could be an intelligent rapper in the way that you delivered your words. Definitely, definitely say he would move. He definitely moved genres forward, and particularly with some of his tracks that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we've got 10 absolutely cracking Common tracks to talk about. But before we get the shootout underway, here's a quick run through of the rules.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the damn high World Cup. Rules to the shit. Damn high World Cup. Rules to the shit. There's rules to this game, so let me tell you how we do it. It's the damn high World Cup. Rules to the shit. Only the strong survive. It's the damn high World Cup.
In our shootout versus episodes, we pick 2 hip-hop producers or rappers to compete against each other and find out which is the winner. We select 5 tracks to represent each side. Those 5 tracks include one personal pick from each host, while the other 2 tracks are decided between us. They can be from any era as long as the artist or producer came to prominence in the 1990s, but they can't be songs we've already discussed on our Dream Team or Playoff episodes. Essentially, they've been cup-tied. During the shootout, we pick the tracks at random to face each other, discuss them and decide which is the winner using the 3-man vote. It's the best of 5, whichever side scores the most wins. So let the shootout commence. So as ever, we are the world's only podcast monitored by VAR technology, which means that every opinion is free from clear and obvious errors. On the panel today, for some reason, are Peter Beardsley.
Thanks, chaps. Delighted to be on, obviously.
Ron Atkinson.
Thank you very much, lads. See you later.
And Richard Keys is joining us.
You go around there any night and found Redknapp hanging out at the back of it.
Oh, I don't think Richard knows we're recording. I don't think he knows we're live.
So hang on,
sorry about that.
we've only got access to pundits who have been disgraced.
Peter Beardsley aside, yeah.
Well, no, not Peter Beardsley got in trouble for he had having some trouble with the foreign lads in his squad, wasn't he?
Oh, did he?
At one point.
Oh, I don't know. Well,
wasn't that the story?
Oh yeah, that might need
somehow I don't know what their nothing about their background, but we don't choose the people who are on the VAR
Right.
panel.
Oh, I see. Oh, of course, we don't know.
see.
They're independently selected by FIFA, so
Right.
Fair enough.
that's who's here today. But Richard, so somebody just let Richard know we're actually live and on air. That'd be good. So without further ado, let's crack on with the shootout. We have 10 common tracks, which are as follows: Nothing to Do, The Bitch in You, Go, Invocation, Resurrection, The Sixth Sense, Respiration by Black Star featuring Common, Jay Dilla featuring Common, E = MC squared, Common featuring Sadat X 1999, and The Roots featuring Common, Act 2, The Love of My Life. Great selection of tracks there. Should we get
really strong selection, isn't it?
Yeah, really strong. So should we get into the shootout then?
Let's do it.
Yep.
Can you, Larry, can you give me a number between 1 and 10?
8.
8. That is Jay Dilla featuring Common, E = MC squared. Steve, number between 1 and 10?
We'll go for 3.
3, which is Go from the album B. Let's have a listen to both of those.
Of truth, opponents in the booth, inspired, cause what I write is fire like roof. They say that I'm as hot as the block is. I say that I'm as cold as the dark is. Knock shit in the cut, trying to get my nigga in the gut. He rolled by, hold his stony up, poking his chest. In the bathroom, sweating with her ass up. The body of a dancer. We had chemistry cause she was a cancer. Thought forever it would last for, but forever move faster. So I had to. Still I got the pause when I think.
Okay, E = MC squared versus Go. So Steve, that was your choice, wasn't it? The Jay Dilla track.
Yes.
So tell us why you chose it.
Well, it's just a fantastic track and an opportunity in the shootout to get some artists and some producers and rappers that we wouldn't normally get to talk about. So, Jay Dilla is, Larry, you're going to definitely be able to talk more coherently about how talented he is and how different he is than I can. But that kind of like jarring, chaotic yet somehow melodic way that he create beats just really resonates with me, and that's kind of like influenced my taste in music ever since hearing him and similar records around that time, which is probably why I like JPEG Mafia and people like that now who are somehow able to create these masterpieces of music that just they sound so industrial and mental, but actually when you listen to them there's something very musical and just fantastic about them. So the way he kind of like chops up his drums, everything I think sounds chaotic, but so precise and intricate in the way he kind of programs things up. And Common fits so well on this because I think Common's a little bit like that as well. Everything he does is really dense and complicated and intricate, and it can sound a bit overwhelming. But on this type of production, I think it's just an absolute perfect fit, and probably like one of the best Common tracks for me on all of this playlist. And I also like the fact that this is on Stone's Throw Records, which is another record label that you and I love, Larry.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
It's The Shining, isn't it? The name
From
of the
The
album?
Shining, yeah. So, Stone's Throw, as Peanut Butter Wolf's label. So I think we're pretty similar. Like at that time, like turn of the century, anything that came out on Stone's Throw or Raucous and stuff, we'd just buy it just because we knew it was going to be amazing. And
although actually, I don't think I had this at the time. I've never been like the biggest Dilla kind of person. So yeah, I never I don't think I had this like at the time personally. Whether that was because I just wasn't buying much kind of hip hop at the time or not, I don't know. When did it come out? It must have been about 2005, something like that, I guess.
I don't know.
A bit later, maybe.
I have to look that up. But yeah, it's and on that album, it's one of those albums. It's a difficult listen because it is so different, and I think this is one of the better tracks on. Oh, probably is the best track on the album. So I'm just so pleased to get it into this podcast, and what a good fit.
Yeah,
What's your relationship with this track, Larry? So you didn't really know it as well?
I didn't know. I don't think I knew it at the time. It's just something I've kind of picked up on at some point over the years, and it's my favourite Dilla beat.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't rate him as highly as a lot of people do. I think he is absolutely incredible, but I think he suffers a little bit from the same illness as Madlib, which is there's too much material out there, and like the quality control isn't great. Like for my personal tastes,
It's 2006. Sorry to interrupt.
right? Okay, I think some of his stuff is absolutely incredible. I think he's one of the most clever samplers like ever. Some of the things he does, but yeah. Anyway, this track, I think it's just such a hard beat. That's what I love about it most. I think it's maybe like the best combination of drums and bass I've ever heard. I just love how they sound together. I could listen to that on a loop, just like an instrumental loop forever. Like the beat alone is the main star, I think.
I agree with that. The drums are absolutely.
The drums
banging.
are incredible. Like they're actually. I was listening to the kind of components of it today, and the drums are like are slowed down quite a bit from the original like track that it's taken from, and that gives them just that really crunchy kind of heart. He's obviously sort of the way he's EQ'd it and stuff is just incredible.
I would kill to have a snare like that.
Oh,
just
man.
to find a snare.
Man,
like that.
it is so good. And yeah, like I think it's a played bass. I think it must be like a Moog or something like that.
Yeah, I like that. The synth bass. Like that.
So good, and just such a funny little sample to like the main like energy equals MC squared Giorgio Moroder thing to listen to is just such a weird thing to sample, but he does it so well.
And that's his genius, isn't it? Though you're right, I think he probably is overrated in general. But he, in a kind of a packed field where hip hop is kind of like really simple, really.
Yeah.
He's able to do things so differently from everybody else.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, I think the energy equals the MC squared bit is the least impressive bit of it, even though I do really like that. I think the drums and the bass are great. But I think as good as the beat is, you've obviously got, Common doing a really good performance on there as well. And I don't think, it's not the most kind of intricate or meaningful verse that Common's ever done. And it kind of almost sounds a bit freestyled, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's kind of party vibe to it.
I'm not saying it, I don't think it was like an off the top, but I think it was probably just like written there in the studio. And in fact, he says in it, this rap here is something that I felt in the moment. He says that right at the beginning.
Oh, right.
So I think he's just like writing to the beat there and then, basically.
And he fits it really well. He has sort of matched it perfectly.
Do you know what? I was going to say, like, there are some kind of tracks where if you're telling like a really clever story or something as a rapper, then sometimes you just want a really simple beat to service that. Yeah. And I think it's the other way around here. I think it's such a good, heavy beat that if you had like a really dense, meaningful kind of vocal performance on it, it would almost be a bit too much. It's just like Common is serving the beat just with...
He's just another instrument, isn't he?
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly. It's just sort of quite meaningless, like party stuff, but it just sounds great. I think it's I love it as a track.
Did you like it, Dan?
I did like it. Yeah, it was it's very different than the sort of hip hop we normally talk about and have on here. So this when I heard it, I was very reminded of DJ Spinner, because I'm a massive fan of DJ Spinner.
Yeah, good point.
He produced. I mean, he was very active around this time. He was producing lots of stuff like this with Jig Masters and that sort of stuff. So I was reminded of DJ Spinner. I like the synth bass line. I think that's really nice. And just, as you say, Larry, the drums are just killer. Initially, I found Common a bit irritating on it, just that where he does that thing at the beginning where he does the party kind of stuff, but as the track goes along, I kind of got a bit more into it, and I like the kind of the vocoder. Was it Giorgio Moroder?
Giorgio Moroder,
for the hook and everything. So I did like it, because it was very much in tune with the sort of DJ Spinner stuff that I was actually listening to around this time.
Those drums are now that you mention it, that's a really good observation.
So I do like it. I do have a bit of a hot take though, and more sort of more general take, in that I think Jay Dilla is probably one of the most overrated producers around in hip hop. I've never been able to get on board with this stuff. There's a few things that have permeated my collection, like the Far Side stuff, the Mad Skills stuff, but all the stuff I've heard of his later, I've just never really been able to get it, and I don't understand why he's quite as revered as he is. I can hear that he's a really good producer, but I just don't understand the level of sort of reverie that's bestowed upon him. I don't get it.
I think it's. I kind of agree with what you're saying. I'm not like the biggest fan of his ever. I think some of it is incredible. Some of it is quite pedestrian. But I think the reason he gets such plaudits is for his he is an innovative sampler.
Yeah.
And it's in particular it's his drums and
his innovations with that as well.
Yeah,
Phase.
People like Questlove has said that he drums this way because he's copying JD's cadences.
That's the part of it I
drumming.
understand. With that sort of hi-hat just being slightly off.
That whole thing is very influential in drumming.
Yeah.
Full stop. You hear people like Nate Smith and other like jazz drummers who kind of obviously wouldn't be playing quite the way they are without this kind of.
And don't get me wrong, I completely understand that, and I understand the influence he had on soul music at the time, neo soul and that sort of stuff. The Soulquarians, massive fan of the Soulquarians. So Erykah Badu's Mama's Gun album is one of my favourite albums of all time, and that's heavily influenced. A lot of the beats on there are very Dilla-ish. I understand the impact he's had on the hip hop genre and also the sort of R&B genre. So I can understand why people revere him for his influence, because the game changed after he came along. I just, in terms of hip hop, I've never heard it. I've never heard that sort of blows you away producer that everybody kind of talks about. I think
he's quite for me quite inconsistent. I think if everything was on the level of something like this, and Players by Slum Village and a few other kind of things, and I would really get it. But a lot of it even on sort of this album and on Donuts as well, most of the tracks I'm just thinking I don't really understand why this is supposed to be great.
If he hadn't tragically died, I think we would have seen an output of that over the last kind of 15 years.
But I don't want this to be like I'm shitting on Jay Dilla. I understand, it's just for me, I've never particularly loved it. But bringing it back to this track, this is actually a very good track. Really hard drums, love the synth bass line. Common works well on it, so happy with that. Should we move on to the other track then?
Yeah, lovely contrast with the other track, actually, isn't it?
Kind of. If that one was a bit more abrasive, this is nice and smooth. This is
this is Kanye produced, isn't it? So
this was Kanye produced. This was my choice. So as you both know, I didn't buy a lot of hip hop as we moved into the new millennium. Because was listening to other things, but there would be a few albums that came along and permeated my buying choices. And Go by Common was one of them. I absolutely loved it when it came out, 2005. I was in love with this album for many reasons. One, it's short, it's sweet, it's a single producer album, which I think. It's been said a lot, but if you have an album that's produced by one producer, they tend to be very good, very cohesive, and they tend to be the better albums. Yeah. I'm sure you can find exceptions.
Part of Illmatic.
Yeah, that was an outlier. But so I loved it for that reason. You had the same producer all the way through, but this was Kanye West is absolute best. I liked him already, but this just took it to another level. It's right up my street. Really soulful, smooth sampling, lots of traits of R&B in there, a lot of jazzy touches.
You like this track because it's sexual as well.
Well, we can get to that. But I like it mostly because it's sort of really smooth and soulful. I love the sample, and I love the way it says "go" at the start of each bar, because that influences how Common raps on it. It dictates the structure of the song.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just really love how it works. I love how he flows on it. I love the sort of the stories he's telling. Some of the lines are brilliant. One of my favourite lines is the bit where he said I was bait for her to master. Just love that. So I just adore this track. But then again, I adore this album. So I could have picked quite a few off this album. Anyone want to go next on this one?
I haven't really got much to add. It's just, like you said, it's got that nice soul feel, and it's just a lovely, catchy track, and it just skips along really nicely for me. So this is a track that I enjoy. I I think you've kind of covered things nicely there.
Yeah, and it was a sort of an incredible Kanye production. I think it's just before he went clinically insane. So it's kind of like a nice document of that time. When
It's hard, isn't it? Because obviously anything associated with Kanye just feel a little bit tainted these days.
Yeah,
And it's like they're not really a matchup, are they? I can't. Apart from where they come from, Chicago. So it's weird thinking that they're together. But Kanye was I think the label boss, wasn't he? So he brought Common in to do like
good
3
music,
albums. Good music.
So Larry, I know you're a big fan of the B album. So yeah, do you want to
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to disappoint you with this one because this would be the last track that I would select from this album. There's so many others that I would
This is the one.
Interesting.
prefer to have on there. And I wouldn't go quite so far as to say that I hate this track because that's strong language, but it's kind of not far from it,
Right,
to be
okay.
honest.
Yeah, that's
And it's... Yeah, why do I dislike it so much? I think the beat is insipid. I hate Kanye on it, doing like the way I hate what he does on it. It's such a nothing chorus, like if you can call it that. I hate that go vocal.
you hate it.
I can't quite tell you why.
Can I just say, if I was giving this level of vitriol to you, you'd be on the soundboard straight away.
Well,
so.
yeah. All right. Well,
You're bang out of order.
no. I want to check in with our resident pitchside reporter, Chris Kamara. Chris, there's been a really controversial opinion in the studio. It's been really it's been a real hot take. What do you think?
I don't know, Jeff, has it? I must have missed that.
Useless, Chris.
Yeah, no, it just also like, I don't even know why it's called Go. It makes no thematic sense.
Because he's getting the green light to sort of have
Is that
sex
it?
with
Is
the
it
woman.
right?
probably.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, I like sex rap as much as the next man. Like, unless that next man happens to be Danny Phillips, which in this case he is the next man sat next to me. But for me, the rule is that they have to be funny, outrageous, boastful,
Filthy.
Just puerile. But this is it's just too earnest for it.
That's what I was saying earlier. You can't. There's
But he's
no
not that sort of
credibility
rapper.
to hit. Yeah. Why is he rapping about it? He doesn't need to.
But he's not, like,
It's only
out
because
and
he's
out-
with Kanye that he's done this. It's
He's
just
not out and out
pathetic.
rapping about sex. It's not a dirty sex rap, really. It's about a relationship. It's about the build-up of
It's
chemistry
about
with a woman.
picking up
It's
girls
about-
in different places. isn't it?
I read a little bit about it, and it said that who's the guy that's like something? Is it John Mayer? I'm pretty sure it's John Mayer, isn't it? On this, well, whoever it was that they were writing with, he just said to Common, "I want you to write about sexual fantasies."
Ah, right.
And that was the kind of, so he kind of did that, and I don't know, it just doesn't.
It is John Mayer.
Yeah,
right?
It is
okay,
John
cool.
Mayer.
Yeah.
I can't, I just don't like it. It's soft, and I'd say it's soft rather than soulful.
But it's catchy, though. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I
think it was
agree.
a
It's
single.
catchy.
I think it's
I
a
agree.
single.
Both
It's kind of
catchy,
catchy,
but this
I
isn't Common's
just
thing.
don't- I
He
just don't
should be
like
doing
it.
this.
I just think the words, the lyrics and the way it's delivered in it are just really clever, and just the way the track's structured.
It's
But
not credible though. It's just.
that's a fair play. All right, Larry.
That's bang out of order.
All right, well, what score did you give it then? I'd probably be quite low then in that case.
I gave it a 2.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't give it that low. No.
I mean, I could, I was probably being a bit
Yeah.
controversial with that. It's, it's just, maybe it's one of those things where I'm the problem, not the track. I don't. It's
Yeah.
probably. It's
No,
I
I'll
probably.
agree with
think
that.
the points you make are really valid.
I don't think it's as bad as I'm kind of. I
agree
can
with that.
see why I can see why you like
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's
But I
fine.
just don't.
What score did you give it?
I gave it a 4 because it's a good track.
Yeah, that's what I gave it. So what track would you have picked off B?
Real people would have been the main.
Is that the one that's just the loop of the?
Yeah.
Right.
that jazzy kind of?
That's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good one, but
the
it's a
corners,
bit-
the corners on that as well. That's a really good
Corners
one.
on it, yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, Testify.
Yeah.
Faithful.
Oh, Testify, yeah.
Faithful's amazing, and They Say as well is
Yeah.
just. Yeah, you could have had loads of this. It's just when I bought this and I was listening to it, this was the one that always stood out for me, just because it appeals to my sensibilities. But each to their own.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's vote
City,
then, shall we?
that's good.
Yeah, let's vote.
Let's vote on this one. Well, obviously, I'm going to vote for Go, so I'll leave it to you two to decide which ones you.
Right, it's going to be E = MC squared for me.
100%.
Okay. Well, okay. So E = MC squared gets this,
Back of the net.
and that's our first winner. So that one goes through.
Can I introduce a quiz at this point?
Absolutely, Steve. And
there's a reason for introducing it at this point. Okay.
Here we go. Hold on.
That's the real quiz.
Go.
So this is called Rap Sheet. Okay. I've got a list of hip hop artists and producers who hail from Chicago, which is of course where Common comes from. So the link here is that you might be able to guess one person on this list already.
I like this.
This list is like my list, okay? So you've got to guess what's on the list. It's quite long, but what we're going to do, we'll decide who goes first, and we'll keep going in like a shootout format until one of you can't name a hip hop artist from Chi-Town.
Bloody hell, okay.
All right.
Bloody hell.
So let's do rock, paper, scissors. Decide who goes first. Larry didn't run the Jules gun, which wins.
I think that was scissors.
Scissors.
Yeah, that was scissors.
So
Okay,
Larry,
so
you get to go first.
A Chi-Town rapper.
Or producer.
Or producer. No ID.
Correct, yes. It's on the list.
What, and I just go now, do I?
Yep, we keep going.
Can I have Common?
Yeah, obvious one, yeah.
That's
Right.
cheating. What if I say one that you haven't got on your list?
Then
But
Danny has to get one to win the shootout.
Doug Infinite.
Doug Infinite. Wow. No, that's not on my list. So Danny, you already have to get this right.
Is he a rapper, Doug Infinite, or just a producer?
No, he's a producer as well. He did.
I've got a list of producers. He's not on my list.
So I don't know if he might not be from Chicago.
I'll look that up in a minute.
Oh, I'm used. Has it got to be hip hop?
Yep.
Right. What about Why Not, or Twilight Tone as he was known? No. He was a producer.
You both scored an own goal here, really. So you both missed. So we carry on. Back to you, Larry. There's a really obvious one.
Are we saying that those two aren't from Chicago, or just that you don't know of them?
They're not on my list.
Okay.
So we can check whether they're from Chicago in a moment.
Chicago rappers.
Or producers.
What can it be, rappers?
Producers. I mean, Kanye West.
Kanye West. Well done.
Yeah.
Over to you, Danny.
Remember, dead air is a crime. I've absolutely no idea. I don't know any Chicago rappers or producers apart from those ones.
Right.
Kid Cudi, is he from
No.
Chicago?
No. But can we have a round of applause? Larry wins.
Well done, Larry.
I'll quickly appraise you of who you could have said from my list.
Yeah.
Lupe Fiasco.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Right.
Chance the Rapper. Sabre. No Name. Rhymefest. Do or Die. All Natural. We would talk about that, I think.
No.
I'm sure we talk about that. Open Mike Eagle.
Oh, I've heard of him, but I didn't know he was from Chicago.
I did try to search some producers just so I didn't know that. So Young Chop, the legendary Trackster, Thelonious Martin, and Boy Wonder.
Oh.
It's quite a tricky one.
Yeah, quite tricky.
But there's some obvious ones in there that you also got.
But thanks for that, Steve.
Our pleasure.
More
That's the real quiz.
next time.
It's a funny city for hip hop, isn't it? Chicago. There's like an obvious massive hitter in Kanye West.
Yeah.
And then you've got Common, who is like probably the next down from that.
Yeah.
No ID is actually a really big time producer, but he's a bit more of a backgroundy kind of.
He's not well known.
He's not well known, but he's just very well kind of known in the industry.
I think it was more famous for house, wasn't it? House music and Chicago house, that sort of thing. So, right, should we do the next
one?
Draw. Larry, give me a number between 1 and 10, different than last time.
2.
2 is The Bitch in You. Steve.
Let's go for 9.
9. That is the Common feature is Sadat X 1999. Let's have a listen to both of those.
A bitch nigga with an attitude named Q tried to step to the con with a few. Now what the fuck I look like dissing a whole coast? You ain't made shit dope since America's most wanted to cease from the Midwest to the East. On the these record company niggas I don't like when I see them. My ancestors when I'm writing I see them and talk with them. Hoping in the promised land I can walk with them. Shitted on so many rappers it's like I'm in the star with them. But less concept, stark rhythm, pay dues, bar wisdom.
Okay, so that was The Bitch in You versus 1999. I'll go first on The Bitch in You because that was my choice. Now, I don't know how much you two looked into the sort of origins of this track and why it exists, but it all started on Resurrection when Common had the line. What was it?
Salty, she was with the boys
I wasn't
in the
salty.
hood.
She was with the boys in the hood, and Ice Cube heard that and took offence to it. Thought he was dissing the West Coast, so came back with a verse on West Side Slaughterhouse by Mac 10. So this was Common's scathing response to that verse, and it's, for me, it's one of the best diss tracks ever. I wouldn't say it was better than something like No Vaseline or some of the NWA stuff that we've discussed, but I think this is a really, really killer diss track.
Did you have this at the time?
No, I didn't have it at the time. I was aware of it at the time, but didn't have it.
Right.
And I kind of heard about it later, acquired it later. But it's just, I mean, he really goes in on Ice Cube proper hard. And I just think some of the lines are so clever, like get some beats beside George Clinton to rock over, like having a go at him, for that. And yeah, I just think he really kind of nails it. In fact, Ice Cube, I think, went pretty quiet after this. It was kind of like he shut it down.
All right.
The production is by Pete Rock, and as you both know, I'm a big fan of Pete Rock, and I think this is a really, really great Pete Rock track. That sample, it's from Light My Fire, one of the versions of Light My Fire,
right?
And just works really well in this, married to Pete Rock's brilliant, as ever, his brilliant drums. It's a really kind of dark and sinister track to match the kind of subject matter, so he's really going at him. And I'm really not surprised that Common came back at him, because in West Side Slaughterhouse, I don't know if you've ever heard it.
Yeah.
But he claims that hip hop started in the West. One of these lines is hip hop started in the West. He was like, well, you've set up a pretty easy run for Common there, really.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be an interesting one to include, because obviously we've got all the obvious stuff off all Common's albums, but this is one that we, had a bit of a story behind it. And yeah, thought it might be interesting to talk over. So
they have since made up, just in case you're worried about that.
They have, yeah. So what are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
Really mixed, actually. So it's really hard, isn't it? Because I've said this already, but I think he is clever but not credible. And if you're having a diss track with Ice Cube, I think again it doesn't necessarily fit as like a matchup, like a versus, because Ice Cube has that kind of like gangster persona that Common doesn't have. So it doesn't really feel like Common should be even engaging in any kind of dissing. And I know this is revered as one of the best diss tracks ever. I don't think it is. I think there's some really clever bits. I think like Hit 'Em Up is the best, because it's just ferocious.
No, I like Hit 'Em Up.
It's just ferocious.
It's awful.
It's not. But
I hate Hit 'Em Up. Go on.
So there's some bits in this track that I kind of unpicked, like he tries to fit in like some of his old albums, and I think is that really that clever? It's just like, that's quite simple to do. But there's some other stuff that is really clever. So I really like the lines. I'm have to wreck a ho shay.
Yep.
I heard a ho say you're her favourite rapper. So I had to slap her. But and I guess one of the reasons I like it is because it's clever, but also it's very unlike Common to say something so denigrating about women.
Yeah.
It doesn't kind of fit his persona, so that just kind of like stands out for me.
Do you think maybe there's an element of like Common being too good to have engaged in this sort of thing?
Yeah, like he shouldn't be.
He's better than that.
Yeah. Well,
I think there's just a thing though in hip hop where if you are dissed, you have to respond with it. Like you have no choice but to do it.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts really. I do think this is a good track. I like the Pete Rock production, but I just don't. It's sincere enough to be a proper diss track.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Like if we were picking our absolute favourite Common tracks, I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be on my list.
And
it's because it's a discussion point.
And I used to love her is Cup Tied, isn't it?
Yes,
because I think we should make that point. Otherwise, that would definitely be on this podcast, because it's a fantastic
100%.
track.
But yeah, no, we did that in our 94 episode of Dream Team, I think.
Yeah.
Larry, what are your thoughts on this one then? Is this something
I quite like it. It's not one that I kind of revisit particularly. It's one of those ones, it was a bit of a kind of mythical track for me, because I was aware that it existed, and this would have been one that I got like on Soulseek or Kazaa back in the day, when you could suddenly kind of like search for really obscure tracks that you didn't have before, and it'd take you like a whole evening to download something over dial-up. The beat is kind of okay. It's a bit of a workaday effort, really, from Pete Rock. It's inoffensive. It's quite good, but it sounds like something that he knocked up pretty quickly. To be honest, it's not. It's quite. It's just. It's not. It's quite repetitive, and it's fine. The line that I really like on there is there's a couple of them. On the Dick of the East for your first release, like referring to him with the Bomb Squad.
Yeah.
And the other one that I really like is slanging bean pies and St. Ides in the same sentence, which does kind of it is a very hypocritical thing for Ice Cube to do, to try and sort of make out that he's like a 5%er or something.
Yeah, he's
like,
also hypocrite. I'm serving your death certificate. It's like he's just pointing out the hypocrisy of him. Yeah.
So that's good. It's quite a weird. Like, for a diss track, it's very subdued, isn't it?
It is,
like
it's befitting Common. It's a sort of diss track that I would expect Common to come up with.
Yeah,
clever, low key, not shouting, just clever.
Yeah, true. But the neighbourhood bully, Ice Cube's just going to go and take a gun out and shoot him. He doesn't need to be that clever.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's The Bitch in You. What did you give it, like in terms of scores? I gave it a 4 because I really like it, but.
It's a 3 for me. It's okay. I don't dislike. It's not. I wouldn't skip it, but it's nothing more than that.
It's a 4 for me.
4. Yeah. 4. So you did like it then?
I do like it. Yeah, it's better than average, but just not one I would kind of massively. I don't think it's like. I wouldn't sort of listen to it much, but it's absolutely fine.
It's a good.
It's above average.
Decent. So let's move over to 1999 then. Common featuring Sadat X. So whose choice was this?
This was yours. This was mine. Yeah. This was another.
The floor.
This was another opportunity.
I would have happily put it in as well.
Yeah, and I think this is exactly the same we were saying a moment ago. Like, this is an opportunity for me to shoehorn in some tracks from just outside the golden era that we were into, and so this is from Raucous Records. And it's one of 2 tracks actually in this podcast produced by High Tech, who's a really fantastic producer. And we'll talk about the other track when we get to it. And this is from an album called Sound Bombing Volume 2, which I don't know if Danny would have listened to it, but Larry and I would definitely have been well into
Part
this.
2.
Part 2, yeah, definitely Part 2. And on that, I just have to mention this because I just this is really important for me. But on this album, there's a track called Any Man by Eminem.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think, his best ever track. I just love it. He's just at his kind of like disgusting best, basically. But there's some other really brilliant tracks on there that don't probably get a lot of airplay. So if you haven't listened to Sound Bombing Volume 2, just go and listen to it. So yeah, I mean, one of my observations again was this it's like Common is able to come out of the golden era and continue to be a really good rapper and go into a different label and just produce some fantastic stuff. High Tech, I think the bass drum for me is really nice on this track, and it's really thick.
Yep.
And then you get the bonus of having Sadat X, who's another golden age throwback, who's just so unique in the way that he sounds. Oh, it's just absolutely brilliant. So as soon as this track starts, it just throws me back into the end of the 90s. Lovely production, and again, I just so similar sort of saying with the E equals MC squared. Common just fits really well. He's able to flow over this track in the kind of same way. So this is a really brilliant track all round from everybody who features on it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one that I wasn't sort of familiar with at the time it came out, but I do have it. I own it. I got it. It's on the Cool Common Collected CD that came out sort of slightly later on. I didn't have it on Raucous or anything like that. So I do know it. But High Tech was a producer that I wasn't really familiar with. He kind of passed me by.
Yeah.
But I do like this one. I think it's a nice beat. I like the strings and the guitar samples, and I think it's a really kind of
really catchy.
Nice beat. I find it a bit repetitive, but I won't deny that it's a kind of a head nodder. So it's quite nicely done. However, I kind of find Common's verses on it a bit he's a bit lackluster. He just kind of plods along in it. But then it wakes up a bit when Sadat starts rapping. I really like his verse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said it was one of the better Common tracks, and it was never one that I loved when I had it. But I can see why you two like it. And
I think the beat is the strongest part of it.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah,
the beat is the strongest part, and I do like the way it's composed, but it's a little bit repetitive for me.
See, I think I kind of get what you're saying with the sort of repetition, but I think actually he subtly changes things up enough in it that it's not too repetitious.
There's one bit, I will give you that there's one bit where he just lets the string sample play a little bit longer than the rest of the track. I love that.
And do you know what? Nice. It's actually 2 samples on this track.
Yeah.
I always assumed it was just like a loop or something, but I looked into it today, and the guitar bit is different than the strings. They're from 2 completely separate artists and tracks. And I thought, but they just fuse together so perfectly that it just feels like they're from the same track.
It's quite nicely done in that case.
Yeah, lovely. It's one of my all-time favourite beats, I think. I think it's...
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I don't know what it... Like, this kind of would have been when I was so deep into my kind of second wave of hip-hop and being into all this kind of raucous stuff. And this has just always been one of the standouts for me. I love the beat. It's just such a crisp snare on it, and I love the samples on it. I think you're right that like Common is a bit pedestrian on it.
That's
I think that the beat is the main kind of thing, and so that X definitely livens things up in it. But I just love it.
Yeah,
okay.
It's just so. It's just like from that era. It's one of the kind of standout tracks, really. I think High Tech is a bit kind of hit and miss generally, but when he's on form, like he is with this and with Respiration as well, which we'll be talking about later, I'm not quite sure which one I prefer the most, but I think that he's a very, very capable producer, and I just love this track. It's a classic for me.
All right, well, let's just go over to Richard Keys to see what he thinks of that opinion that Larry's just shared there.
You definitely smashed it.
I would agree with that, Richard. Yeah, you definitely smashed it. So, scores-wise, what we give him 1999. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's kind of quite middling. Not one of my favourites, but
it's a 4 for me and upwards towards a 5. I can't give it a 5 because it doesn't quite have classic status for me, but it's close.
Yeah. It's a 5 for me because I think it is classic.
Cool. Well, that's given us a bit of a clue as to what maybe we're going to be voting for.
I think we know which way this is going to go.
I think we do, but I'm going to go first and say The Bitch in You is my vote. So I guess you two are going for the other one?
We're going for 1999.
Yeah, 1999.
1999.
1999.
Is there a cover version of the Prince song?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Direct cover, yeah.
Direct cover.
I'll tell you what as well, just a very quick one. On the CD... This track is preceded by like a little scratch routine, like a beat juggling routine of this track by Babu and J-Rock,
brilliant,
and it is great. So maybe that's kind of adding into the mystique of it for me, is that the way it's placed on this kind of compilation is just is like the centerpiece of the album, I think.
And as ever, as we always say, you two have got a kind of I was there at the time connection to this.
Yeah. Definitely.
Can I just get a little dig in here?
Yeah.
We've had me versus you in the first 2 rounds, and my common choices have beaten you both times.
Really?
And that's brought me an immense satisfaction.
I bet it has.
I don't know why, but maybe I know common better than you.
Well, somebody who's not happy, let's go over to Kevin Keegan and see what he thinks about it.
I've kept really quiet, but I'll tell you something. He went down in my estimation when he said
Yeah,
that.
precisely, Kevin, and mine. Fair enough. But this isn't a personal kind of beef, though, Steve. Come on, this is all's fair in love and hip hop.
Well, it's nice.
So 1999 gets one of these.
Back of the net.
And Larry, I believe we've got some
urgent news
just come in.
Yeah, we've been doing the podcast for quite a while now.
Yep.
We've suffered considerable financial losses, I think we'd all agree, like money we've put into this.
You could say that.
Money that Steve said has gone towards investments that just don't seem to have paid off.
I'm sorry, guys.
Quite the opposite, in fact. So, as the kind of marketing manager of the podcast, I've decided to reach out to some potential sponsors, see if we can recoup some of those losses.
Good idea.
So I've had replies from 3 potential suitors, and we need to sort of get back to them at some point. One of them in particular says the deal comes off the table at midnight tonight. Anyway, so we've got a choice. The first one, Admiral, the not the insurer, the football,
the kit maker.
The
kit
Classic
maker.
kits, yeah.
No money on the table as such with Admiral, but they've agreed to give us either a pair of shin pads
Each.
They didn't specify a pair of football boots from the 2020 range, or a hat. So that's offer number one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Offer number two, bit of a left field choice, but Steve Agrizovic, the former Coventry goalkeeper, he actually approached us, weirdly enough. I'm not sure kind of whether he's a fan or whether he's just looking for opportunities generally. But he's willing to pay £5 for an advert. But, mind you, that's per episode.
Right.
So that could add up quite quickly.
Each time.
What will he be advertising?
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it? I wasn't quite sure. I did email asking back, and he just said goalkeeper. So I don't know what it is he's kind of looking to, whether he's looking for a place on a team.
Does he think we're like a five-a-side team who's offering to play for us?
It could be that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
he must be about 60 now. That's
yeah. And the last one, and this is the one that really excites me. I think you'll see why. Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah.
Heard of them?
What do they do?
Footwear.
Again?
Coca-Cola, probably the most famous drink in the world. Absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Massive marketing budget. This sponsor is like that. It's not actually Coca-Cola. It's Mr. Tasty Cola, which I understand from their marketing materials is the fourth most popular selling cola style drink in the rural Philippines.
Okay.
Again, no money per se, but they've offered, and I quote, as much Mr. Tasty Cola as we can drink, up to an annual limit of 12 gallons. The stipulation is that we have to rename the podcast Hip Hop World Cup, presented by Mr. Tasty Cola.
Right. Okay.
We could get some reach out into Asia. That's probably my favourite.
Wasn't there a court case involving Mr. Tasty Cola recently?
Well, yes, and here's a Brexit benefit, if you're looking for one, is that it's not available for sale in the EU due to certain laws and statutes not being complied with. But now that we're outside that and we can strike our own trade deals, despite the high chemical content in Mr. Tasty Cola, we're able to sell it in the UK now. So
it's down to us to choose which one of those.
It's down to which one to get back to. It's Steve Agrizovic is the only one that's offering hard cash, and he's the one that says the deal comes off the table at midnight tonight.
Okay.
The other one, Admiral, would get some gear from them. Mr. Tasty Cola would get up to 12 gallons of what they call cola-style beverage.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll have a meeting afterwards. We'll discuss it. We won't do that on air. Out of respect for each of the companies. And next episode we'll reveal who we went for. Brilliant. Thanks for that, Larry. That's great. Right, back to the shootout. And we're going to get two more tracks up against each other. Larry, can you give me another number?
Have we had number one yet?
Nope, we haven't. No, so number one is Nothing to Do from the album Resurrection. Steve?
Number 5.
Number 5, that's Resurrection from the album Resurrection. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming. Let's have a listen to both of those.
We come to the get together with whatever, you wouldn't know how deep it was. We all didn't sit together, eat up all your vittles, drink your brew, and then step to the next cue. Let's do it again, y'all. That was when mad was tall and fat was cold. The days of old Chicago. I stagger in the gathering, possessed by a pattern that be scattering. Over the global, my vocals be traveling, unraveling my abdomen and slime this babbling grammatics that are masculine. I grab them in, verbally badgering broads. I wish them.
Okay, so this is a really, really tricky one. We've got two. Well, I'll reveal my cards. I've got 2 5 out of 5ers here up against each other.
Same.
So that's out of impartiality. Let's let Steve go first on this one. What's your take on? Let's start with Resurrection, the first track on the album. What are your thoughts?
You're both going to hate me, I think. Yeah, this is obviously a highly revered Common track, isn't it? It's like one of his most popular. So it is. I like the gentle kind of soulful beats. You know, we haven't really spoken about No ID yet, have we? Who to my knowledge, has only kind of got production credits from Common. I don't really know of his work outside of
He produced the last Killer Mike album.
Did he?
Yeah, that gospel-y kind of one. That's no idea.
And his own album, of course, in '97.
Yeah, I think he's produced. Like, he's got a lot of recent production credits that you don't necessarily know about.
And he also branched into R&B. He produced a guy called Jaheim.
Yeah, actually, there is a new album he produced just for himself, wasn't there, in the last year?
Yeah, and I think he also did a Jay-Z album. What's that one called? Like 3.33 or something. What's that one called?
Oh,
Do you know the one I mean?
No,
the one with the story of OJ on it from about 8 years ago. He produced that, so that's like obviously a big like credit.
Yeah.
So he's bigger than you might kind of think, but he's not flashy with it.
So he's done other stuff.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked much about him. So what are your kind of thoughts on him as a producer?
I don't really have any because he doesn't have that kind of reverence, or I don't have that much knowledge of him. I can only just say on this track, it's a gentle, soulful track, and that's what I can say about this track. I don't get it. I'm really interested to hear what you two are going to say about why, because this is like Larry's one of your favourite ever tracks, I think. Isn't
Are we talking about this is Resurrection?
Resurrection.
Yeah, we're doing Resurrection first.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, this is the ultimate nostalgia track.
Yeah.
Not only is it incredible in its own right, but it's also have this like deep nostalgia attached to it. Obviously, listen to
your own nostalgia.
My own nostalgia. I've got particular memories attached to it of being at parties in the middle of the night. I think like we were having this massive sleepover after the party, and we were playing it. You know, the lights were off. It was just nighttime music. It was amazing. And our mutual friend Rob had bought it, and I was really jealous that he'd bought it and I hadn't, because it was so amazing. But it's just something about that piano sample that comes in. It's got this really like deep, jazzy, soulful feel to it that just instantly whisks me back there every time I hear it. But then, as you said earlier, Larry, he comes in with the lyrics, and it's one of the most incredible displays of lyrical dexterity, I think, like there is.
Yeah.
Just some of the metaphors, some of the wordplay, some of the sentence structure.
I still couldn't tell you sort of what most of it actually is, like to this day.
No.
I was like reading through it on Spotify today as I was listening to it. It's like I know the cadences of it all off by heart, but I don't actually know what he's saying.
I was trying to do the same thing, because I'm trying to work out why everybody likes it so much, and I can't decipher really what it's on about.
But that's art, isn't it? You know, you shouldn't always be able to.
Well, yeah, no.
Yeah. But just that first line, a stagger in the gathering, possessed by pattern, that be scattering over the globe, my vocals be travelling and rabbling the abdomen. It's just an incredible display of wordplay, and
it's sometimes too clever.
It's a bit like, you could accuse it of being sort of wordy for its own kind of sake and for being clever. I get that criticism of it.
Kind of get on board with that a little bit, but yeah, I can only respond to like how I felt about it at the time, and it's stayed with me ever since. And I just think it's an incredible track from an incredible album, but it's also married up with this intense nostalgia I have for it and the great times I was kind of at the time I got it. So
I can talk about Nothing to Do more.
Okay,
go
on then.
With more,
with
more enthusiasm.
So yeah, I mean, Resurrection is I think like the perfect track.
Yeah.
Basically, the main loop is one of the best piano samples in hip hop. The drums are just the right amount of hard, and they match it perfectly. As we said before, I think it's one of the best rap lyrical performances in rap up until that point in time. He's one of these people that came along like a Mad Skills or AZ, who's just got a different way of doing things. Maybe it's not. If you kind of put him up against like a Rakim or someone like that, I get the argument as to why he wouldn't be as kind of influential as them. But he was just, to me, just above, a notch above everybody else at that point in time. Even the scratching is really catchy.
Yeah.
And especially that bit at the end where it fades out and then back in again. It sounds like the kind of thing you'd hear like in a DMC routine.
Yeah.
At the time.
Before you go on, the scratching, that is something that I've noticed quite a lot, and I think it's who's the Sinister DJ?
It's Mr. Sinister.
Mr. Sinister, and I don't know if Mr. Sinister's scratching on here, but he's bloody good, isn't he?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, that's so good.
And the fact that I think I must have said this when we spoke about the album originally, but the way it fades in and then the way it fades out and then fades back in again, is a resurrection of the track, and I'm presuming that's just a very deliberate kind of thing.
It's so perfect though. It's so perfect.
So good.
It's so good.
And there's another kind of really nice little kind of production detail in there, but I'd never really kind of noticed in such detail before. But like like at the beginning and especially right at the end, you can hear like crowd noise.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually in there like the whole way through.
Yeah.
They just kind of duck it a little bit during the verses, then it comes back up in the choruses. And it's such a subtle bit of texture that if it wasn't in there, you would really notice that it's not there.
Yeah.
But it's something you kind of feel rather than hear. Yeah. And it just gives the whole thing an air of like a live like a really live performance. I
wonder what the thinking was behind why they put that in there. I know it fills it out and gives it kind of an extra dimension. And also like the way it kind of fades into I Used to Love Her as well.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, it might just be that it was a little kind of, just a little sample that he had that he just kind of wanted to put in there for no real reason. Perhaps it just felt a little bit empty without it. Or maybe he wanted, and this is where No ID comes into being a clever producer, maybe he wanted it to be like to set the album off like as a live performance, like subconsciously or something.
But the production is just so
even the kind of like the nice and smooth Resurrection vocal snippet that they use, was the track called Resurrection and then they found that, or was the whole thing based around having that bit?
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
Why is it called Resurrection? I don't really kind of understand.
So
is it common like being reborn?
I think it had something to do with
rapper?
with the reception for Can I Borrow a Dollar?
Yeah.
Maybe it was kind of people weren't feeling that as much as he believed they should or would.
Yeah.
So he reinvented himself, came back more mature.
Yeah.
He says it himself on Resurrection album. He calmed down.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a resurrection for him as a rapper.
Right. So I guess that's it.
I think that was all what that was about. But
I think it's a perfect track. I think. I don't think as much as I've listened to it over the years, I don't really tire of it.
Yeah.
It's just
classic, and the production is so good. It's just classic hip hop production. It's kind of steeped in that kind of the filtered bass line, kind of the Pete Rocky type production skills. And it's a classic break, the Power of Use break, and it's the Ahmad Jamal sample. It's actually quite simple, but just finding all those elements is just a masterclass in production and making it work like that.
All comes together just absolutely perfectly.
It really does. Right, so we like that one then. But Steve, you want to talk about Nothing to Do?
It's interesting to hear you to speak because we often don't agree on things, and I think like Nothing to Do has just is a better track,
right?
And
is it because it's about something a bit more? It's a bit more substantive.
That's definitely like the first thing. It's like, reminiscing about the old days, and like, the hook is all about like, rolling a spliff and just kind of chilling out. It's like a lot of what they're reminiscing about doesn't make any sense. I just know that they're reminiscing. That makes sense.
Yeah, good point.
And that kind of like just makes you kind of sometimes just get lost in the song, doesn't it? It doesn't matter, but the bit at the end, like the P.T. Wheatstraw, the Devil's Son-in-Law.
I didn't know what that was until today.
That was a movie, isn't it? It's like, it's just like, what the hell is that? Right,
Rudy Ray Moore, isn't it?
I've got to go and look that up and see what that is. And like, obviously the ODB hook about as we roll in, that's just gives me a hook into Wu-Tang. So there's more to this track that I like, and it just seems to. I think the production this one just flows really well, and I like. I think it's got a really good bass line, and I just love that. I think it's like a jazzy saxophone or something on it that for me just gives me that little earworm to kind of keep me going. So I don't know. I just feel like I understand this track. It resonates with me. It makes more sense to me why this is on the podcast. Because who chose it? Did you choose it?
And that's important to you to
connect
relate
with it.
To connect with it. Yeah. It was my choice. This one.
Yeah.
I think because we had I Used to Love Her, but I think this one might low key be my favourite track on the album. It's weird. It's the one I kind of I admire it. I kind of admire it. I just
Yeah.
love it. Again, it's got that nostalgia, yes, and obviously it's from an album that we love, Larry.
Yeah.
But everything about it, I love. The sample.
Yeah.
But let's start with the sample for starters. Like how they found. I don't know if you ever listened to the track it's sampled.
Only today, it's a version of Walk On By,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
a version of Walk On By by like something called Live in Jazz or
Live in
something.
Jazz, yeah.
And when you listen to it, it's fairly unremarkable. It's kind of an unremarkable cover, but that the bit that it samples just suddenly it all falls into place. Now I don't know whether that's because I know it from this, so therefore when I heard it, I was like, oh wow, there's a sample. But had I heard that for the first time, I would be like, that is such a lovely piece to have sampled.
Yeah.
The saxophone just fits so perfectly. It's just such a lovely little section of the song. So the sample I love, the sax, I love the way it's used. I love all the delay he puts on it, on the sample. As you said, Steve, the Old Dirty Bastard sample just works perfectly in there. And it's just, again, it's steeped in that kind of nostalgic feel, not only because it's about nostalgia, but also for me, it has nostalgia attached to it because of where we were when we were listening to it.
Yeah.
So it's everything I love about this album in microcosm, this track. It's just, I honestly, I cannot say enough good stuff about this. And for me, it seals No ID's kind of status as one of the biggest unsung heroes of hip hop.
Yeah.
This is just
the fact that he produced this whole album as well.
The whole album, and again, it comes back to that single producer thing.
Yeah.
You know, but just this is everything I love about hip hop. So this is again, it's a flat out 5 out of 5 for me. So sorry, Larry, I might have.
No, it's fine. I kind of mirror most of what you're saying there. I think lyrically and thematically, it's one of the best ever, like back in the day tracks, which is like a subgenre of rap that I really like.
You do, yeah.
It's so evocative. I can almost see them kind of going about their business.
Yeah.
And the music matches it so well. It's got this real kind of like wistful melancholy to it. It's nighttime music. I used to love this. This is one of those albums that I used to love putting on at bedtime on the headphones, and this is like the high point of it. I'll be just lying there waiting for this track to come on, and you can't really sort of sleep much past it because it's so relaxing. But it's also, No ID is very clever with that loop.
Yeah.
Like the way he separates out the frequencies, like it's a masterclass in that type of production. So like during the chorus, he's playing the loop in full, but then during the verses, he separates out the bass frequency for the main kind of bit, but then also just slides in little bits of the horn and the guitar with this delay on it to kind
Just
of pad it out.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so good. And the drums are just perfect for it as well. Like it's a little kit that he's made himself. It's like the snare is like quite famous.
It's Leroy the Magician, Gary Burton. Yeah.
But it's also got like this really like just a very simple but effective like ride cymbal in it.
Yeah.
And like an 808 kick drum as well. Like at the beginning of every 4 bars, it's got like that kind of deep delay, like a long decay 808 kind of bass on it, and it's really subtle, good. But it's just so.
And at the end, he gives a shout. It's gives one of the shout out to all his Chicago mates and stuff as well, which is quite nice.
That's like I've said a few times already. Like I don't sometimes think his credibility, because he tries to be from like the street corner on so many of his raps, and he tries to be more intelligent, and there's like a wide variety of things that he raps about. But actually, I think he does sound genuine on this one. There is an authenticity to this.
Yeah,
it doesn't pretend to be something too much.
It's really from the heart, isn't it? Yeah. Just about
him
and his kind of buddies, just go as teenagers or young men, just going about their business, out kind of getting some brew and some eats.
And we've all been there. You know, we can all relate to it. Like you said earlier, Steve, you can connect with it. You relate to it.
It's a really universal kind of thing, isn't it? No matter where you're from, and it's got a really. Just a line that's just occurred to me that's really good is my raps do laps around tracks and adapt to any environment. I'm the common chameleon, which is obviously a Karma Chameleon
so clever.
Reference. Bloody hell, it's so good.
So good.
Yeah, clever stuff.
Right, well, so that concludes the Resurrection section. We're going to vote on this one then. It's really hard for me.
I just don't know what to do.
Let me go first, because I never
first.
choose nothing to do, so that's an easy one for me.
So that's one vote for nothing to do from you, Steve. Larry, you go next.
Oh, man. I could literally... I mean, it's going to have to be a coin flip, I just
Do you
don't
want to
know
physically
what
do
to
that?
say.
Or
I mean,
I think great podcasting.
I won't do that. I will try to come up with a proper answer. They're both 5 out of 5s. Are either of them a 6 out of 5? That's the question.
Which one's going to take you to a desert island? You know, what are you going to take with
I
you?
think I would probably... I think Nothing to Do has probably got more about it as a song. Resurrection is absolutely incredible, more of a party-ish kind of thing, but I think I'll probably go with Nothing to Do.
Yes.
Because it's nighttime music. It's only to be played
To be
at
fair,
night.
Resurrection is nighttime music as well, but I hear where you're coming from. Well, I'm going to seal the deal. I'm going to make it a 3-0 win for Nothing to Do, because it's just...
I think like you say, it's like low-key, maybe the best track on the album.
I think so. I really do think so. All right. So, well, I used to love her, but I used to love as the obvious answer.
Yeah.
The Heads.
Yeah.
Nothing to Do. All right. Let's give that a round of applause because that was a great discussion and a great matchup. But it is Nothing to Do that gets one of these.
Back of the net.
Okay, so are we 3 down now, Steve? Is that just the third match?
Yep.
Yeah, we're an hour and 9 minutes in. So let's move on to the next one. Let's have another number, Larry.
6.
6 is The Sixth Sense, fittingly.
Wow.
And Steve, let's have a number from you.
We'll go with 7.
7 is Black Star featuring Common, Respiration. Let's have a listen.
What matchup?
Through me, Muhammad will forever speak Greek. Brothers with handshakes on ghetto landscapes, where a man is determined by how much a man makes. Pop cognacs and spit old raps with young cats with cigarettes in their ear. Niggerish they appear under the FUBU is the guru. That's on the A-man corner I stood looking at my former hood. Felt the spirit in the wind, knew my friend was gone for good. Through dirt on the casket, the hurt I couldn't mask it. Mix it down, emotion, struggle I hadn't mastered. I choreographed 7 steps to heaven.
Okay, you'll notice that I've chosen all the Common verses for the clips, so
very
gonna give myself
very
one of
nicely
these.
produced.
So the first one was The Sixth Sense. Now this comes from Common's album Like Water for Chocolate, produced by DJ Premier. This was all of our choice, so this was the one that we chose because we had 3 choices each, and there was a 10th choice that we all agreed this should be in there. So but I'm going to let Larry go first on this one. So what is it you love about this one? Because you mentioned you love it earlier.
I mean, I think it's one of the all-time great Premier beats.
Yes.
It's almost like a parody of a DJ Premier beat, if you know what I mean. Almost a little bit much, but it's just so uplifting, isn't it? It's such a head nodder. Uplifting kind of lyrically and musically, and that Bilal vocal on the chorus really lifts it above the average scratched chorus.
Yeah, you don't hear it very often on DJ Premier.
And it still has got the this is rap for real, something you feel scratched bit.
Yeah.
From Mob, is it Mob Deep?
Yeah, where would DJ Premier be without Mob Deep
yeah.
acapellas? I don't know.
It just feels like they've gone all out. It's just a notch above your average boom bap kind of Premier thing, with that Bilal kind of vocal on it. And also, I listened today, for the first time actually, to the track that he sampled, and he seems to have chopped it in quite a clever way, just to sort of slightly alter the timing and give it a bit more kind of swing. But it's just lovely.
He chops it really well, doesn't he?
It's chopped really well. The drums are just are lovely on there. Classic, just classic Premier stuff. Basically, one of his best for me.
Yeah, you got a Sixth Sense for this one, Steve?
It's very hard to say much more than what Larry's already said. This is real hip hop music. This is absolute premium hip hop.
Rap for real, something.
It is absolutely.
The
it's
Premier
proper
producer.
boom bap. It's proper nod in your head, and with all the best Common tracks, he just flows really well on this. And I've said that so many times, but he just seems to fit in this Too Deep to Sleep. There's just so many good bits on this, and I love the funny skit at the end. That's just one of the best. I think it's one of the best skits in hip hop, where he's talking to this woman, isn't he, about how she's impressed that he takes such good non-misogynistic views, and then he's off slapping his hooker, but not doing her work.
There's nothing like
slapping
a hooker skit, is there?
Does that lead into that leads into the next track, doesn't it? Like A Story Called Pimp or something, is it? Is that the kind of...
I don't know, I can't remember, but it's just
Might be wrong.
it's just funny. So yeah, and on that album, I think the other track which is amazing is The Light. That didn't make this podcast, but I think it's also a very another 5-star track.
I've got issues with The Light.
There are quite a few tracks that could. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of The Light personally. I would have had other tracks from it, but I think this one is just universal, isn't it? It's actually kind of, it stands out sonically, stylistically on the album from the rest. It doesn't really, it shouldn't fit, but it does.
Yeah, it's an outlier, isn't it?
It's an outlier. It's very different to the average track on there, which is very much that kind of Soulquarians, neo-soul kind of thing.
Very
and this
much
is
so.
just a proper hip-hop banger.
Yeah.
We shouldn't miss the opportunity to just say that this producer is the best, really, and he will have his own shootout.
He'll have his own solo shootout
because he's so good.
Later in the series, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he deserves it because this is the classic archetypal primo beat. It's like like you say, Larry, it's the most premier beat that
verges on parody.
It does, yeah. Really great drums, really great drums. That's what sets him apart, is the drums, because what I've found with DJ Premier, and this verges into hot take territory, so I do apologise, but around this time his productions became a little bit formulaic, and they are, if you analyse them, they are actually really basic. He takes a sample and chops it, but the sample he chooses, that's where the work is. It's the sample that he's chosen, and the parts he selects.
Hasn't he?
But he doesn't do a lot with them. He chops them, puts them in place. But it's when you marry them to the drums, it kind of creates this kind of alchemy that can only come from DJ Premier.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he shines.
He gets the boom bap.
There are so many people that try to do exactly the same thing, and it's just not as easy as it looks.
Exactly.
He makes it look easy.
The formula is to take a chord, basically, a chord from an old jazz or a soundtrack or some weird old tune.
Yeah.
And he'll just take that part, he'll loop it or chop it, and then he'll add a weird sound effect at the end of the fourth bar or something. And that's kind of the formula, but it works. If it works, you would keep doing it. And I think this track is a real standout on the album, but like we said a minute ago, it's an outlier. It's completely different than the rest of it. It's not in that Soulquarian style, but I don't know, I don't think any self-respecting hip-hop fan would pick 10 common tracks and not include this.
No, you have to, don't you?
It has to be in there. It's so good. But so that's Sixth Sense. The other one in this matchup is Respiration, Black Star featuring Common. This was your choice, Larry. So
good choice.
The floor is yours.
So again, this is just from that era where I was getting back into hip hop big time. Like this, I expect this is probably like my I was most deep into hip hop at this point in my life, more than any other time, really. And I appreciate it's not strictly a Common track. He's only a guest MC on there, but
that's perfectly acceptable though.
That's within the rules. But I think he is such a good addition to the duo of Black Star. Like he kind of Common bridges the gap between like the kind of classic mid-90s stuff and like the early 2000s and onwards. And I think it's a really memorable verse on it as well. I just love the kind of, like similar to Nothing to Do, he's kind of talking about kind of old Chicago and his kind of love of it and how he misses it when he's away. And it's got that really great line in it, like, asked my guy how he thought travelling the world sound. He found it hard to imagine he hadn't been past downtown. It just kind of speaks to like how ingrained you can be like in a city like that, where like maybe like New York or somewhere. Like if you're born in such an incredible place like that, why would you bother going anywhere else, kind of thing. But I guess that also speaks to just like a particular mindset and a situation where you maybe don't have the opportunity to go to other places and you're stuck in the ghetto or whatever. But I think the beat is another like fantastic high-tech beat, one of my favourite kind of beats from the era. That's it really. I think it's just a great track. I haven't got much to say about it other than that. But what I kind of would like to get across is that when you take into consideration like this and 1999 and just other little kind of bits and pieces here and there, I would just love to hear an album, like an alternative universe album from this era of Mos Def and Common. Like Talib Kweli, I can live without. He's all
You've
right.
stolen my thunder there. I've got a bit of a hot take on that. Yeah,
a Mos Def and Common Sense album produced by
I couldn't agree
like
more.
High Tech and some of the better No ID
Get
tracks
stuck in
from
then,
this
Steve.
era.
Let's have it.
Let me speak to this. Yeah, so like get the production out of the way first of all. So lovely High Tech production, and I love the layers he adds into his production. And there's some like nice little clever bits, like particularly like the Spanish spoken bit by the woman, and Mos Def, who likes a little bit of singing every now and again, but he doesn't do it too much on this track, which is quite nice. So yeah, faultless production from High Tech. Now I think these three rappers are really interesting. So there's like a spectrum here. So you've got kind of like Mos Def, who's really easy to listen to. He's so poetic and he's quite accessible as a rapper. And then you've got Talib Kweli, who he isn't so easy to listen to. He's crammed a lot in, and he's very, very dense. And I think Common sits actually in the middle of the two in terms of like the density of their raps. So that's where I was kind of thinking, wouldn't it be good just to get rid of Talib Kweli and just have Common?
It's only the group that Black Star could have been.
I actually think that Mos Def and Talib Kweli are like the sons of Mos Def. I don't think they would exist in quite the same way without his influence. I think like Kweli in particular is a kind of bit of a spiritual kind of continuation of that kind of thing.
I see Mos Def and Common being quite similar rappers in that they're quite intellectual. They're both very intellectual rappers.
But Mos can do something. He just sounds more poetic. I mean, like the chorus, for example, is so poetic. I'm not going to read it out.
Yeah,
but if you haven't heard this track before, it's just a beautiful chorus, so clever, but in a poetic way, not trying to like put lots of wordplay or metaphors or similes. It's just. I
think this is the standout track from the Black Star album.
Definitely. It's a fantastic album, another raucous classic, and definitely one that everyone should listen to.
And at the time, I just loved the fact that it featured this rapper Common that I had this connection with from what I would at the time have thought was the old days. It was actually about 3 years like prior. But he was like my connection to like the that era of hip hop, and he was still doing it at this.
But he still doing it. And interestingly, if you did like a Mos Def playlist, top tracks, it'd be very small compared to a Common one. Common is just. He is way more prolific, I think.
Yeah, Mos Def doesn't, or Yasin Bey as he's called now, doesn't have his. He's got some questionable stuff in his catalogue, but he's also got. I really love the Ecstatic album. I think that's his best album.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
He definitely became a bit Marmite, I think, whereas Common has been consistently at a good level, I think.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I mean, this was obviously Black Star and Mos Def, as I said in the Beatnuts episode. Mos Def was somebody kind of passed me by, or almost happened after my time in hip hop. But I have to say, I do really like this one, this track. I think the beat's a banger. I love that kind of guitar or
it's actually a piano that sounds like a guitar, and there's a guitar played over the
twangy.
top of it.
Yeah, it's nice. I really like that. I like the beat, the live guitars, whatever it is, and the drums. I like it, all of it. I like the beat. And that singy song, is it Mos Def doing that? I like that. I kind of like that. Fits really nicely.
That's his thing.
And the verse from Common is really, really good. Like complex and intricate. Kind of, it's almost like he's showing off on it. I really like it. But as I say, I don't have a kind of a historic attachment to the song, so I was hearing it kind of for the first time, and I like it. I can see why you two chose this, or you chose it, Larry. So yeah,
I could have easily have chosen this as well. It's a brilliant track.
Yeah. So yeah, I like it. I don't know what more is to say.
And I'm in the problem of that you two had just a moment ago. These are both 5 out of 5 tracks for me, so I don't know how I'm going to decide this.
I won't go that far.
Maybe you two could.
Danny,
go first.
if you hadn't if like house music hadn't have come along
Yeah.
and like taken away your attention,
Yeah.
as it did with me as well, but I kind of got back into hip hop as well. If you had sort of continued listening to hip hop, I can't help but feel like this would have been the sort of stuff that you would listen to, isn't it?
I think
like,
so.
It's got that classic kind of.
It's musical.
Yeah.
It's soulful. I think Mos Def would certainly be somebody who would have been on my radar.
Yeah.
Had I carried on. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So should we vote?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's go for you first then, Steve.
No, leave me till last because
Oh, okay.
I can't decide. These are 2 5s.
Jeopardy.
So
Sorry.
just remind us, it's Sixth Sense and
Respiration.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Well, they're both 5 out of 5s. I'll tell you that much. I think I'd probably go for Sixth Sense, to be honest, just because it's more of a like Respiration is a deep cut. It's like 6 minutes long. You don't listen to it and not kind of take notice of it. It's cognitive. Whereas Sixth Sense is like more aimed at your body.
Pure hip-hop.
It's just proper banging hip hop.
So that's your vote, is it?
I think, yeah.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to seal this one up for the Sixth Sense. That gets my vote.
Yeah, I'll make it a 3-0. I think
Yeah.
Larry, you summed that up brilliantly.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a 3-0 for the Sixth Sense. Common and Premier winning combination. And the Sixth Sense gets one of these.
Back of the net.
Just going to check in with Richard Keys. What do you think about the outcome of that?
You definitely smashed it.
Yeah, I would go along with that. So we've got one more match to go to complete the shootout. And just a reminder that after we've got our 5 winners, we are going to go away, tot up the scores, and come away with what we think is the best track, scientifically calculated using true score technology. So
Now incorporating AI.
yes, it is. Very controversial.
Yeah,
Not gone down very well.
It's still using the first version of ChatGPT, which isn't quite as advanced as the version 4, but
Yeah, absolutely. Ron, I know you're over there in the VAR panel. What do you think about us using AI and TrueScore technology to calculate the best common track?
I'm sorry, you can sit there and look and play with all your silly machines as much as you like.
Okay, well, I think we will then. That's kind of a blessing from Ron Atkinson. All right. Okay, so the final match in this shootout, no need for a number this time, chaps. It's Invocation from One Day It'll All Make Sense up against Act 2, The Love of My Life, which is The Roots featuring Common. Let's have a listen to both of those.
You charting certain shit I can't honor. It ain't that you selling, it's your karma. Rappers I monitor like a chaperone. You large and haven't grown. Poetically perform live-bys. Another rapper gone. The stage becomes a catacomb. I rap like a mummy. Not for the money, I could've was speaking to my guy Regan. I see was desperately seeking to organize enough confusion. Using no protection. Told on resurrection. Caught it to Hype Williams and lost her direction. Getting 8 in sections where I wouldn't eat her. Under the counter love, so silently.
So lovely matchup, this one. We're going to start with Invocation. This was your choice, Larry. Talk us through it.
Well, I can't really talk about this without mentioning the context in which I first heard it, which was, it's a 1997 release, so I wasn't listening to much rap at that point, certainly not new stuff, but Common, just given his pedigree and how much I love Resurrection, I was kind of eager to hear this. Don't think I bought it. It would have been like you buying it and then me hearing it at yours. But I was just hoping for Resurrection Part 2, which I think
You've just said exactly one of the notes on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
And given that expectation, like hearing this as the first track, I was like, oh my God, like we're in for an absolute treat with this one. This is going to be my new obsession for the next year or whatever. But actually, this is probably as good as this album gets, and it's certainly the only one really that's in that kind of mold. It's like a continuation of, it's produced by No ID.
Yeah.
It's a continuation of that kind of style that was on Resurrection, just a slightly cleaner, more polished kind of sound to it. And it kind of mirrors Resurrection a little bit in the way that it fades out and then comes back in again at the end. And I think he's definitely like trying to move on with this album, like to the Common that he would later become. And in retrospect, the whole album, I kind of had a skin listen to it today. It feels like a proper midway point between Resurrection and Like Water for Chocolate.
Yeah.
It's kind of that kind of neo-soul stuff is starting to creep in to it. And I think putting this track right at the beginning was a pretty deliberate way of saying, like, that's your lot as far as this kind of... I'm not like this anymore. That's it. Now I'm moving on to something kind of else. Like,
which is suggestive in the title, isn't it? Like the invocation.
Invocation. He also says on it, there's a line, growing into my britches, outgrowing the streets.
Right.
And I think that kind of, he's just saying, I'm maturing.
He's becoming the artist he feels he should be.
He should be, yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. This was a definite shift away from the Resurrection style. Yeah, a lot cleaner, a lot more soul influenced.
Yeah.
It was a big shift.
I've just always thought, like, you know, he's obviously entitled to do what he wants to do, but if he wanted to make an album specifically tailored for me at the time, it would have sounded like this and the better tracks from No ID's album.
Yeah.
Like, if you took the good tracks from No ID's album and this and a few more of that quality, that would actually stand up against Resurrection.
Yeah, that
would compete with it.
I think so. That might have been how it was split as well. Like No Idea would have been producing beats in 96, 97, and probably the best, the ones that Common liked the most went on that album, and the others went. I
think get the impression he was just moving away to a different kind of sound, different crew, working with different people.
Definitely. But it's funny, what you've said, Larry, just completely mirrors my notes and what I've got down here.
Right.
It's like I was so excited about this album. Like, I was beyond excited because of how much I love Resurrection, and I was sort of eagerly awaiting it to come out. I ordered it from Onion Heart, which is our local record shop at the time. And it came in and I listened to it. Like you, I heard this and thought, we're in business. This is Resurrection all over again. This is exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But then after this track, it kind of went downhill.
Yeah.
Didn't like the rest of it very much. Didn't really listen to it. I wanted Resurrection Part 2, like you said.
Yeah.
To me, I think the sound was too polished. It was too polished,
really?
too saccharine. He started doing that kind of ballady kind of...
not for this track,
not for this track, for the rest of it.
Yeah, I agree.
This was a very Resurrection.
Yeah. But
then it went another way. It was too polished, too saccharine, and I just didn't like it. He was trying to sound a bit more commercial, I think, in my head. But this track is incredible.
Even though he says on this track, not for the money, I could have sampled Diana Ross a long time ago.
Yeah, which is a bit ironic. But this track is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I just kind of love it. I love the sample it's a Jimmy Ponder sample, which is just incredible. The drums are so
crisp.
They're crisp, they're big. Quite how he EQ'd it to get him sounding like that, it just blows my mind. And I think Common kills it as well on it. The rap style is very Resurrection as well, and the Diana Ross line, like you said, Larry, is really good. I really like it. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. But the rest of the album.
What was the most disappointing sophomore album for you? This or the second Maxwell album? Because I remember being massively disappointed with
another album I ordered from Onion Heart.
Right.
And bought from I think the most disappointing was this one.
Yeah.
For me. Although my all-time biggest disappointment, sophomore
Romanthony?
album the biggest disappointing sophomore album is The Dogfather for me.
Yeah.
Oh, good shout.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It
was written was good. I'd still quite like it was written, but The Dogfather, God, that was a piece of shit, that album.
Yep.
Right, Steve, I want to hear what you think about Invocation.
Yeah, it's a track I like. The first thing I like is it drops straight in. Little bit of a scratch and then off he goes. I think that's a really nice start to the album. And it's actually a really short track. It keeps it kind of like really short and sweet.
Just like a verse, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
From memory.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sinister features quite heavily on this one. There's scratching all the way through it, and particularly at the end, I just love the scratching at the end. It's just it just works.
And the way the beat
well.
comes back in again, like you said,
yeah,
on the snare as well.
Oh, that
which
snare
is just
it's so nice.
It comes back in,
So it's that in my notes I kind of thought actually for me, this does feel like one of the best No ID produced tracks in my opinion as well. So kind of resonating with what you were both saying, really.
Nice. So talking of the new Common and the sort of direction he moved in, we're moving on to The Roots featuring Common, Act 2, The Love of My Life, which was obviously Questlove, part of the Soulquarians, and this is very, very of that time and of that sound. This was your choice, Steve.
That's my choice, yeah. So yes, from the Things Fall Apart in 1999, and it's almost like a sequel, isn't it? To I used to love her. It has. I don't know whether the Roots kind of like thought, we're gonna make this track about hip hop, and who do we know that's good at kind of doing those allegories? I don't know. We'll get Common, and they obviously are connected, and there's some. For me personally, the Common verse on here is probably there's some of his cleverest lines on here, like almost too many to mention. I would, like anyone listening to this, just go onto like Rap Genius or Spotify and just look at the lyrics and how just bloody clever he is.
There's so many great lines on it, aren't there?
So many great lines, like almost too many to mention.
Even Ice Cube gets a mention.
Yeah. Well, but my favourite one is the Puff Daddy reference.
Yes, I've got that.
Her daddy beat her, eyes all puff, it's constant. There's so many just brilliant stuff in there. But the other thing to mention is the Roots. Obviously, I think Black Thought is probably a peer of his in terms of the ability to be intelligent, conscious in his rapping as well, and I think he's probably maybe just as maybe not quite as clever, but I think that Black Thought is probably a bit of a nicer flow and probably funkier beats, but I think they're probably held in similar esteem, similar amount of kind of output as well. So there's that kind of like lovely melody to this as well. It's just a nice kind of like subtle melody that kind of goes all the way through the track, that kind of like means that whenever this track comes on, it instantly throws me back to the millions of times I've probably listened to this track, because it's just such a good one. So one more thing I wanted to mention is that it feels like all of my favourite Common tracks are the ones where he's guested on someone else's track. Right.
It's interesting.
I feel like I maybe have this like inherent bias towards his albums for some reason. And listening to you two today, obviously you listened to them at the time, and probably, like Water for Chocolate, I definitely listened to that at the time. But I don't know, I just don't maybe have that same connection to his studio albums like you two do. But anytime he seems to guest on someone else's album, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, you like him in small doses. Yeah,
that's probably a good way to describe it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one is right up my street. Like, it's a really lovely production.
Did you know this before I suggested it? Was this one that you were familiar with?
So Things Fall Apart wasn't a Roots album that I had.
Fair enough.
I think I had Illadelph Half-Life. No, well, I know I've got it. And my introduction to them was Do You Want More? And Do You Want More I really quite liked. I liked Silent Treatment, Proceed. So I like that album a lot, but I kind of fell off them later on. Yeah. So this is a really nice little surprise to sort of hear this and realise how much I like it. There's musically, like, I love, after about 3 minutes, these strings come in. I don't know if you sort of heard that, but it's so soulful, so lovely. Like, I really love it. And like you say, Steve, it's a really clever follow-up to I Used to Love Her, just sort of continuing the hip-hop as a woman theme, which Common invented, of course. But yeah, and as I said earlier, that Soulquarian sound, this is kind of like the quintessential Soulquarian sound, that kind of Dilla-influenced, live-sounding Rhodes and all that sort of stuff. I was a big fan of that sound. So yeah, really enjoyed hearing this one. So thank you for choosing it.
Good, glad you enjoyed it.
Larry, what are your thoughts on it?
I have to be honest, I never listened to it until like now.
Yeah.
I just never got into listening to the Roots for some reason. They just the timing just kind of always, it was never quite right for me, which is weird, but I can't quite explain why, because at the time that I was getting back into rap with stuff like For Water for Chocolate, I would have actually loved this at the time. Like I was always looking for stuff like that.
They're a bit softer
For
though
some
than
reason,
probably
I
the
never-
Raucous and the Stones Throw stuff. I think I appreciate them more now than I did at that time.
Yeah.
Because I think they just had a slightly
But they're a bit
softer
more,
feel.
I was into that stuff, but I was also into things like, Common and Slum Village, and this would have been like another obvious entry into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can't sort of quite account for it really. But yeah, I also thought that Her Daddy Beat Her Eyes Will Puff beat, is really good. The beat is not really my kind of thing, but it is very kind of classy, I would say. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm a bit kind of indifferent to it. Just I think I would have more of an appreciation for it if I'd heard it kind of nearer the time, but yeah, just not quite my style.
No,
really. Not the kind of thing I'd listen to.
No, fair enough. All right, should we take a vote on it then?
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have to go for the one that I chose. I'll go for Act 2.
Act 2,
You're the
Larry?
love of my life.
Oh, definitely Invocation. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to seal the win for Invocation 2 because it was the one I kind of liked at the time, and I know a bit better.
That's my first defeat of the podcast. This
Is
might
it?
be my most successful podcast we've
Not
ever
bad,
done.
yeah.
That's not bad.
Consider it's
Deserves
one
a round of applause, Steve. Because normally you lose every single battle.
Yeah.
So Invocation gets one of these.
Back of the net.
All right, so those are our 5 winners. Steve, would you mind just recapping what the 5 winners are?
Yep, so we need to decide now on our favourite ones from E equals MC squared, 1999, nothing
to do,
of course,
From
called
Resurrection.
Sixth Sense and Invocation.
Cool. So what we're going to do, we're going to go away, tot up the true scores for all of those songs and come back and reveal our ranking. So stay tuned. Back in a minute. Okay, so we've been away and ran all the scores through our silly machines, as Big Ron called them. And we've got a top 5. We've got a ranking of the 5 winners.
We have.
Over to you, Steve, at the Vidi printer.
So, what a strong field today. All 10 tracks today have been absolutely fantastic. So, in reverse order, 5th place was 1999.
Okay.
In 4th place is Invocation. In 3rd place, bronze medal goes to Dilla and E equals MC squared, which means...
Hang on.
Go straight in with 1st place. Nothing to Do wins.
So Nothing
which
to
means
Do.
2nd is Sixth Sense.
Wow.
Deserving.
And that was very, very close. I just say to the listeners, that was very, very close
Yeah,
at
it
the
was.
top.
We actually deliberated over that for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't know that because we.
Do
edited.
VAR need to check any of our actions?
No, I think they're all above
Happy?
board.
They're above board?
No clear and obvious errors, so I think we're all right. Okay, so what we've established here is that Nothing to Do is definitively the best common track. Is that a fair result? I think so.
Not in my mind,
Not in
no. But then I've had it all my way the whole podcast, and at the end,
yeah, got the rug pulled.
As usual.
Well, I think it's a fair result. So let us know what you think about that on X, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky. Just search at Hip Hop World Cup. Give us a follow. Let us know you're listening. Let us know what you think of our winner. Or maybe give us some suggestions for future shootouts. We'd love to hear from you. And also please subscribe and leave us nice 5-star reviews on Spotify, Apple or your podcast platform of choice. We also have a YouTube channel, so please check us out on there.
Are we on Bebo still?
Bebo's still on there. We're still on Vine as well. Check out our 6-second videos on there. And so that's it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you for our next shootout. Peace.
Good looking boy.